What's up, guys? Vince right here. Time to talk about one of the games that I grew up with, and also one that I finished. That I finished like 2 days ago, and it was the right timing because I needed a new game to stream, and also I had enough memory for like a new game coming soon to the channel. But yeah, I'm gonna try to attempt to review or talk about Ratchet and Clank Going Commando at the same time trying to remember what happened, because the thing is the span of a year of really playing, because I had a bunch of other games that I wanted to play, and of course I was late for this one because there was a time where I deleted it for more space because my friend Stefan was coming over, and we usually do a lot of gaming when he comes by, so I delete Going Commando um, when we hung out and played some other games. And I re-downloaded it after he was gone, and my whole progress was just gone. Especially, updating the emulator to actually run the game. But I finally finished it. I didn't know it was going to be that short. Now thinking about it, because I thought it was going to be a bit longer, even though it's a big game. Because Ratchet and Clank is known to be, at least for me, seeing all the gigs from the PS3 and PS2 games, they're pretty big. And for this one, I just here to talk about it because there's a lot of memories and nostalgia from this game, but it's just giving my thoughts, and I'm gonna try my best to stay away from like actual details of this game and mostly talk about the memories that I had playing it, because I this is definitely an upgrade from the last one, Ratchet and Clank, the other game that I played that I also reviewed, and this one is like a step up to that of it, just being a continuation of discovering new worlds and just, seeing more and more out there, especially through a game like this. Like I kind of really I had a good time actually just doing the whole collectathon of the game, and it's like collecting the prism, like, shells or something, or the gems on in space, those crystals, especially collecting the actual crystals when you go to those levels of, in the hot level, the desert level, collecting the purple crystals to actually get more bolts, and then go into the other one, which is a very hard level, and getting those crystals in there too. Now thinking about it, I kind of regret actually not checking out all the weapons, because collecting bolts and stuff like that takes a bit of while, but I feel like I could have done that, but I just was so eager to delete the game because of course I needed the other games for streaming, and also more memory for my classes and stuff. And also this game itself, like, collecting the bolts, when, it was also quite fun, even though I prefer them gold than, usual color. And it's the first time in this, series, in any Ratchet and Clank series that I have ever played, that I collect most of the bolts and stuff, the big bolts. And upgrading your ship where it has like like, what is it? Like a fire Star Fox element to it, where you're shooting like different ships and like that. I always kind of find myself really liking that aspect of games when it comes down to the Star Wars ship battle mechanic, where you're just like, driving a starship or a star cruiser or something like that and firing. And I really enjoy those missions. It adds so much. And the main aspects of the game when it comes down to collecting the crystals, going to different starship challenges, going to racing challenges, which was hard because you got to collect a certain amount of speed to finish them. And also like the battle ones, the ones where you battle bosses, you go into an arena and then you select a challenge of like, hey, defeat all these enemies in this current time, or, defeat this boss and defeat this other boss, or defeat two boss in one, and you get this amount of bolts. I always enjoy those. That's one aspect I remember it. And seeing the planets and the lighting, the visuals of just like coming back to them, especially years ago, is kind of crazy that I'm just seeing this like decades ago, because I used to have a PS2 and I seen these levels before, and playing them again, it just brought so much memories, because there is like so much nostalgia between me and my dad when we played this. For those that don't know, my dad is the person that actually got me into Ratchet and Clank, that got me into PlayStation, that got me into that aspect of gaming, of course, like my parents did buy me like a Sega Genesis before, a GameCube, all the Nintendo stuff. PlayStation is very deep within me in terms of like, despite the fact that I can ever afford them because they're just expensive. The PlayStation 5, ridiculous. I mean, I really thought that I was gonna get a PS Vita, which didn't happen because, I got a PSP, which I still have, and that was it. I didn't have a PS Vita, and to me, I just had to live with that. The fact that I didn't own a PS Vita, despite my relationship with PlayStation, but it was always up to the PS2 and PS3 days that was my highest point of actually, being part of that console. And also, it's because that most of my family loves PlayStation. I love PlayStation. And Ratchet and Clank was one of the games. Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, all these PlayStation classics is something that I grew up with. Not because that they're, yes, in some ways because they're PlayStation, but also there's a lot of like memories between my family because I knew that, yes, I had Nintendo, but that was usually almost by myself. And, no one cared about me having the GameCube or something like that. But when the PS3 or the PS2 comes in, all of a sudden me and my friends and families are just like gathered around and we're just enjoying the game, I don't know what it is. It's kind of strange that PlayStation, especially PlayStation 2, my God, was something that, I can never remember out my childhood. Like, especially during that time when almost, both of my parents and me were actually playing PlayStation 2, PlayStation games. And in some cases, PlayStation 3, but that was like the last console my dad touched. And these consoles itself, you can give me all the games in the world when it comes down to Xbox and Nintendo. When it comes down to PlayStation, there is a lot of relevance and also resonation between me and that console. But, I'm here to talk about the Ratchet and Clank going Commando instead of like, the actual, my resonance with PlayStation. But yeah, I'm just letting you know how much that means to me as I'm, still here. So the story of the game just didn't make sense. Ended up short. Like, it wasn't predictable, which was something I didn't expect because, I thought, the main character, the main enemy was the bad guy, Dr. Fizzwidget, and I didn't realize he was going to be, Captain Quark in that suit. Here's the thing, like Captain Quark in many ways, like he was supposed to be an enemy, but I start to find out that he is a frenemy in the Ratchet and Clank universe, which I just don't understand why that it has to be like Quark itself, like I guess it's the same factor around like Sonic and Eggman. They're frenemies in some shows or some games, and then the next one, like, oh, they're enemies, like full-on enemies. But in the next one, they're like, oh, they're friends. They're freaking riding like Sonic riders. They're riding like, skateboards, hoverboards, or, bikes together. They're at the Olympics together, with Mario or whatever. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how does this make sense within this, like, this particular, franchise within Ratchet and Clank, but, you're just all of a sudden getting along with Quark. Or maybe not. Maybe Quark is just a dumb, or maybe someone in the company has a particular love for Quark. Despite me, I start to find out that I don't like him. Back then, I liked him. Back then, I was like, oh, he's funny. I like him. Look at him doing this and blah, 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 blah. And all the reference that I didn't get. By the way, there was literally a reference where, in the ending, where Quark, his torture had, there was a torture chamber where he was in, and then there was this thing that was coming straight to his, thing under his belt. And I didn't realize that when I was a kid. I still remember, but I didn't know it was going like, in that direction. And also many other directions between the blah, 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 2000, 3000, whatever, that Quark invented, which is like, what was that for? Like the idea between him and Megacorp, like, come on. Like in this Megacorp itself, like especially seeing the love interest, or like in some case it was supposed to be between this tall Lombax and also Ratchet. I thought it was going to be something that two of them are going to have for each other more in the story, but I guess that isn't the case because, later on they didn't kiss. They started to see each other, but it didn't, like I feel like Clank had more riz. if we gotta be honest. Like, there's so many parts in this level where I feel like they're supposed to take it seriously, but they don't take it seriously. It's so weird. That's why I like Ratchet and Clank. It's a game where, even though as a kid I played it, it didn't feel like a kid's game. It didn't feel like a kid's game compared to Mario, compared to, other games, especially like Sly Cooper, or, like I feel like, it's the same range between Jack and Daxter, where Jack and Daxter is like, adult orientated. And this game is sort of like fits in that, but it's like almost like general for people that grew up in that era, in a sense, that understands the material and what it's given. Because I had so much memories, and I want to relive those memories when it comes to Ratchet and Clank more so than ever, because, that was literally my childhood. Like, that was everything. And here I am actually just sharing about it, years later, from those, and me finishing it. I thought it had a big finish, but it didn't. We just defeat the big, like, those things, those munchy things. I forget what they're called. Those blue, like, freaking, like, Cookie Monster heads. Like, those things are annoying, but it's a good thing we actually, it's a good thing that it wasn't going that hard, because it does test out to the minimum amounts of weapons that you have, and you need a lot of weapons for the final boss battle to actually defeat it. But I thought it was going to be something a bit more. I feel like the boss battle between this guy that works for the gangsters, that, Thugs for Less, was actually more of a threat than this, freaking Cookie Monster head that was invading, like, with swarms or something. Like, it's because it being a product or whatever. Like, it's funny how they showcase that commercial of, like, a product of, like, you could have this, and, it just attacks the kid. Like, that's not good marketing. Like, I don't... Okay, but I get it's supposed to be comedic. There was a couple of nods of different other, PlayStation, IPs through this game as well. That was funny. Like, I love the relationship between Ratchet and Clank. I feel like the fact that we don't need to worry about them trying to know each other is quite unique, because they already know each other for the first game, and that brought, a lot of color to, like, who they are as, as these mascots in a ways. And I really enjoy, like, so much of what this game had to offer, because for me personally, I enjoyed a lot of, like, of the gameplay, of the story, and also, like, the robot battles that Clank was a part of. I wasn't a fan of that, but I guess that was cool in a sense. And I discovered so many different worlds that I wasn't aware of when I first played it. But there was still a lot that I still remember. And I feel like it's a game that I don't need to come back to. But for the sake of really talking about it and sharing this, because Ratchet and Clank is an IP that means a lot to me, despite me not, really having the money for it, because I want to play Rift Apart. And I don't know how am I going to play it if I don't have a PS5, but I just know I can actually hopefully play it at some point. That's for sure. I know it's on PC, but man, my PC cannot. I literally tried to play Black Ops. My PC wasn't having it. It wasn't having it. Oh my God. But yeah, other than that, that was my review for Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. I enjoyed it. I like the weapons that's give, like the blaster, and also, like, especially having the shield, and also having guards around, and also, like, that other weapon where you, like, pretty much, like, summon, like, I call it summon, like, these guns that can shoot for you or something like that. There was literally there's points, like, in one of those arena battles where I can just spawn those things, and Ratchet is just doing nothing. It's the best. Man, there's so much to talk about this game, but other than that, yeah, 10 out of 10 for me, because this is not only my childhood favorite, but to me, it is my favorite. It is bonkers just how amazing this game, and it would mean a lot if they mod this or put some, like, mod DLC, something like that, and, I get to play different levels or custom levels from it. Oh, that'd be beautiful. Thank you guys for watching. One love and a peace.